Hello, everyone. My name is Trish McCabe, and welcome to Conversations from the School of Hard Knocks. This is a podcast where people from all walks of life will be sharing their stories and the wisdom they have gained from their life experiences. In no way is this show offering any kind of advice or counsel. These conversations will be of a very sensitive nature, so please be respectful in your comments, and thank you for watching.
Was curiosity. That's what's at the root of all these people. That's what they all have in common. And what we're seeing, what we were talking about was all the side effects or the byproducts of their curiosity.
And this is why curiosity killed the cat is a very detrimental statement. It's not true. And I think there's another part to that statement I want to say that I don't remember offhand, but I don't like that. It's very limiting. It just puts the kibosh on curiosity and that something bad's going to happen.
Yeah.
But the truth is, the bad thing could happen, but so could the good thing.
Yeah.
You're missing out when you're so afraid of the bad thing. You're keeping the good thing from coming too.
Yeah. The modern gaslighting attack of that is, where'd you get that from? The internet? Curiosity killed the cat.
Well, I mean, if you're going to answer somebody's question like that, you're on the internet right now, right? Usually somebody's on the internet when you're here on the internet. So,
Right.
Everything we're getting is from the internet nowadays. Most everybody's on their phone. If they're not watching the TV, which, and it's funny when people say that when they want to argue their facts and figures, they got it from the internet.
Right.
That's so just.
It's them. That's the real life example of what it sounds like to be in that car in the middle of the night with just your headlights, speaking from that perspective on something, So
I was talking with a friend of mine today who's struggling. And one thing I didn't learn, I'm 56, so I've been around the block a few times. But one thing I do know is you really don't know where you're going to strike oil. You just got to show up.
Right.
And see if you can. I mean, and a lot of times, have you noticed this? It's from the most unlikely places that you never would have imagined. And people just have this already knowing, I can't go there because this and that. And, I had a friend who told me and But if there's an exception to the rule with everything, then the curiosity is very necessary to find out if that might be the case and where you're at. I mean, just so many gaslighting limited slogans we have in our society, right? that really
that 10 years ago, who would have thought? It's like that movie They Live is so true. Like, it's really what's going on. You've seen that, right? With the signs.
I've not seen that. No.
Okay.
I haven't. I think I've lived it though.
It was right. It was basically, for those that don't know, the real quick picture is, let's say the glasses. They had these glasses, and when they put the glasses on, you could see the billboard that was like the soda pop commercial on the billboard would be changed to just the black and white board of obey. Like, you could see the real message in the and then there was the people, and certain people, they weren't real people. They were like aliens, like, for lack of a better description. And then they were like, we have one that can see, you know what I mean? So that's you, Trish. You're the one that can see. That's who we are. We're the ones that can see in the movie They. You see?
Oh, wow. Oh, well.
They Live, rather. It's called They Live.
One thing is, I've always been inquisitive. And if I see a pattern, I go, what is that about?
Mm-hmm.
Why does this keep happening? I've always just been Patty the weirdo. I was always asking the questions that people are like, why are you asking that? Because it just didn't make sense to me. It just didn't make sense. But anyways, I love this. And the whole point of this podcast, everyone, is to all that we're talking about here is what separates everyone else from Walt Disney, Steve Jobs, any person that ever
Michael
David
Jordan,
Bowie,
Stephen King.
you know, I love what you said. They were curious. They just said, oh, what if I did this? What would happen? Kind of thing. And instead
To
of
the
being
point,
afraid,
curious
you
to the
know,
point of animal form curious, where it was like, you know what, we're going to disband the label, disband the current state. You got all of society
yeah,
saying, no, this is how we like to do it. And then they have IBM and Apple, you know what I mean? It's like, wow, we didn't realize how much better life would be. You know, like, yeah, I was trying to tell you, you know, so you're gonna have to fight through all of that. You know what I mean? Just like you're gonna have to fight through that moisture on that glass, even though it's just, you know, just white, you know what I mean? But imagine if it was ice, you know what I mean? You would have to chisel it off the mirror, and then you still got to chisel it without breaking the mirror, which is yourself, right? So
right.
so imagine trying to chisel ice off a mirror without breaking it. That's the operation you're doing, people. You are doing in real life. So don't create the unrealistic expectations that to make change, it's always going to be easy, simple. It just takes a lot of dedication from your curiosity.
And when you think about be like water, it's more like it's what Eckhart Tolle says is, you know, always act as though you chose it. And that even your failures are a part of your success. Everything that you're going through is essential for you. I like what Iana Van Zandt says. When you pray, everything that you're going through is preparing you to receive it.
Yeah.
You have to go through a few things to understand what it is you're asking for.
Yeah. And then,
yeah, right.
And only because you know what you're asking for.
Right.
Do you know what it is when you do receive it? See, because if you don't know where you're trying to get to, you don't know that this might be a path, a shortcut, because you have no idea where you're trying to go. But if you know I gotta go up here and make a left, and you see this path going to that angle, you might one day try it because it could be a shortcut to your original destination. But you wouldn't know that if you didn't know where you had to get to. So now once you're on the path, so to speak, or you're given the tool or the item or whatever, it's now in your possession. You're in possession of it. So that the curiosity leads to the desire of possessing the answer, the solution to that, the satisfaction, the sadness of that curiosity. Because see, that once you find that curiosity, the light dims, so it's satisfied. Then you can go on to the next curiosity. So that's what sad means, to satisfy. So we want to sadden that curiosity by possessing the resolve. Possessions next.
Oh yeah, I like that. One thing that I think when we think about Bruce Lee and water and adaptability is the truth that everything is temporary. Things are always changing. And you know that you hear that saying of adapt or perish. Adaptability has a component, that's a component in there. But yeah, I think if you get mentally into that everything's temporary, I think it helps you in the process of your journey. Yeah. I think there's an element, I don't have that sorted out yet, but it came to my mind. So I always want to speak when it comes to my mind, because I feel like there's a reason why it's come to me. So I may not have it all sorted yet, folks, but this is where I live. This is what I love to do. I've always loved to do this. I've always wanted to break things down and understand them and help people.
Yeah, this is the space. This is the space we're filling water. The water becomes the space. And even in that statement that we were talking about earlier, water becoming the space is the water possessing the space, right? So, and possession is not just physical, it's mental. You know, if you want to get into invoking and evoking energies, right? So what we know is in order to possess, you got to have the mind in alignment with the physical.
Give me an example of that.
So the mind was aligned in the future physical of these people for having the audacity to have a thought beyond the constructs. So that allowed them the opportunity to fulfill or sadden the curiosity, which then all had an effect on physical. And this is how we're getting into the kind of like the topic of the podcast in summary, is the curiosity creates the desire for possession, which by default leads to impact on the environment.
Interesting. When you say possession, that's a word that I think the word, I don't know, I'm confused. So I look at it more like obtain rather than possess, or you mean just have it?
So, okay. It's amazing. That's confused. Confused is amazing. So we always have amazing topics between us of conversation. So possession, right, is when you attain it, you reach it, right? Now you have to deal with maintaining it. It's really the difference in being able to buy the car versus being able to own it. You know, with all that comes to own it, it's different because when you first get it, like you said, nothing stays the same, right? So when you first get it, you get the car in this condition. 10 minutes later, it's not the same car. It has changed. You have changed. So the relationship ain't even the same. So now it's never going to be the same again, you know? And that's really what I see. I forgot the source, but the theory is that we're chasing our whole lives, right? A lot of people to get back to that wholeness, that 100% that you'll never be. So that car will never be 100% again. At least in its original form, you know, and we'll never be 100% ever again, right?
It's like riding down the river of change.
Yeah,
in a way.
And be able to go.
I don't know why, but it's just all these things come to me. Like I keep hearing David Bowie.
Yeah.
Changes and face the strange changes. And he was really privy to that truth of change. And to work with it again. Yeah. Well, okay, if things are always changing, I could be different today. I could be Ziggy Stardust today. You know what I mean? You're not attached to it. So I'm getting real deep.
That's
I can't help it.
That's the flexibility of it all. As the car changes or as the people around you change, you're growing, you're becoming different, you're changing. It's doing this at all times. And that's the flexibility factor over being, because see, what we do as a people is we were taught strong.
Yes.
And what is strong? What's another word for that you could say for strong? Rigid, right? So rigidness leads to brittleness. At some point of, as long as let's say it was built to be a bridge and it was built to hold the weight up coming down on it. And it's strong that way. But you have a gust of wind come in and bend it.
Thinking about that earlier.
Causes it to break because it wasn't designed to be flexible enough.
Flexibility.
So strength is counterintuitive to flexibility.
Oh my gosh. That's amazing. It's a side note, but it really struck me wonderfully. I just saw an interview with Paul Stanley from KISS. And he said something really profound that I was so grateful that he said. It was on the news. It was on a news, like a Good Morning America type of thing. And he was saying, people say that, you know, to not cry is strength. And he goes, that's not true. It takes incredible strength to cry.
Right.
And just what we've been taught what strength is I like what you said. It's just not accurate. It's counterintuitive. That's what you said. I love that. And I love that you break words down and how they're used inaccurately, not, you know, creates like a misnomer type of a thing. It's not quite right, you know?
Yeah, it's helpful. I'm glad that you mentioned that because it's helpful as people get to understand that, like you said in the earlier podcast with us, they're not broken. You see, They're not broken. They're actually operating the way they were taught, what they know, the car and the headlights in the middle of the night, right? So when you are in a position where we are using words incorrectly, then that means that we're going to have thoughts incorrectly too, because I don't know about everybody else, but I use words in my thoughts when I talk to myself all the time, right? So if I'm not using the words right, it don't matter if I'm speaking them or not. I'm getting a false reality of the energy I'm requesting, that I'm summoning. So once we understand why, what, when, and where, you normally feel it enables you, empowers you to feel better about what you're seeing, just like we proved in all of our examples today, starting with the shower. Once you understood why the distortion was there, you just said, hey, let me wipe off the mirror.
Once I understood the stupid girl was in the way, wow, what a just, because I saw how it, because what we're talking about here, people, is these that the environment really affects us, and we haven't really been aware of it. Not really. And that leads you on these paths that rob you of yourself. You don't get, you're stuck in this, you know.
Take it to the infinity, Trish.
I think about that movie, The Stepford Wives. Did you ever see that movie back in the 70s? The Stepford Wives, they were like puppets. They were like robots, you know. You're like a Stepford wife. You're not really being true to yourself.
Right.
You're stuck where everybody else wants you to be rather than you actually want to be. And that's never been allowed. So you don't even get to question that, you know, until, and this is why so many people, when they hit rock bottom, they have an awakening. Because like you said, that pressure, and then you have the big bang. That's, you know, everything comes crumbling down in your rebirth, the Phoenix rebirth.
Yes.
It makes you question everything about yourself, everything about life. And that's a good thing. So if you're going through a hard time, that's probably what's happening, is you are having to adhere to the principle of cause and effect, and that you're having to face your actions and your choices and where they've gotten you.
Exactly.
Because if you don't, it's going to keep happening. So at some point you're like, I don't want this anymore. I don't want to be in the shower anymore. Get me out of the shower. You know, what's going on? I'm so tired of it. And then you realize that you can change it. You can choose not to take a shower.
Right.
Choose to get out. And
because you said it there just now. You said it there just now when you said when you're talking about the actions. Because what are actions really? Actions, if based on what we just talked about, right? And I'm not even gonna say this is super scientific, but just based on our conversation today, the actions would be the success or the result of the curiosity. Past curiosity. You see what I mean? So it still loops back to curiosity. So once we understand that, to go beyond that curiosity, you can find more.
This makes, and I think I've told you this before, but with the stupid girl thing going on years ago, a friend, and this goes to curiosity. A friend said, hey, I'm working with an agency. They're looking for a receptionist. And it was an agency, a staffing agency. And she said, why don't you send them your resume? I'm like, oh, I'm not smart enough. They're going to run all these tests. And she goes, why don't you just send them the resume and let them tell you whether they want you or not, or whether you fit their criteria or whatever. You know, why don't you just find out? You got it all made up, but you really don't know. You're making this up. Just send it to them and see what they say. Not only I said, wow, I never thought about it. Like, I sent it to them. They said, oh, wow, we really like your resume, which I was shocked, of course, because I had this whole made up thing in my head based off my past experiences. And not only did that not happen, but labels. Yeah. But when I went there, they just gave me a typing test to see how much you type. Oh, you type all right. Okay. I said, but what about all the programs and everything? She goes, well, don't you know, that's different with each company. They all use different programs and software and what have you. And anywhere you're going to go, you're going to have to learn their system. So that's irrelevant. years, people, I tell you, years, I did not pursue that because I had that belief and I was wrong. And so when she said, just send them your resume, I went, wow, I am curious to see what they think.
Mhm.
If I hadn't done that, that led to, by the way, a really good job working for a PR firm, which I learned a lot about advertising, marketing, and many other things working for that company. And I met some amazing people. So further facilitating my growth. And that would have never happened if I just didn't do that one small thing of showing up for myself and just send the resume and let them tell you whether they like you or not. But you're
Yeah.
already making up your mind that they're not going to like you, thus stymieing yourself for what? For something you really don't know. You have to be curious enough to what's on the other side of that decision. If you don't know, then you owe it to yourself to find out. Just find out. And then if they would have said, oh, these tests and whatever, then I went, well, not for me. But that didn't happen now, did it?
No.
And that just illustrates my point that you really don't know where you're going to strike oil.
Right.
You just don't know. You got to
And
show up.
and it's that age-old saying about you're right whether you try or not, whether you say I can or you do. You know what I mean? Whatever it is, but you're always right. Like when you said that earlier, and you were talking about your limitations, and you were like, but it was wrong, or I was wrong. See, that's our attack on self again, right? You weren't wrong. You were right. And because you were right, you were only identifying with the variables that you could put into a certain equation that would produce that result to be right. You see what I'm saying?
If you think you're wrong, so you are.
No, even when you think you're wrong, to say you're wrong still is like implying there was some sort of error in self, right? But remember what we said is, in that perspective, that is all there is. So what had happened was because you had now formed that belief, right? You accepted that contract. You were only allowed to operate in the space of elements that environmental elements that would produce that feeling, right? So what I want you to do now is go call that teacher, go find that teacher on Yelp or Google and call them and say, hey, look, teach, that little stupid girl just figured out how to create more brilliant people to impact Earth. We got to feed their curiosity, which is something you couldn't even do when you were calling me stupid.
Yes. And that goes back
your
to
curiosity.
And what's really important about this element that we're talking about is like what I said about anger. People say, don't be angry. It's because they're afraid of their own anger. They have their own limitations, so they're going to put them on you.
Right.
That's why so much what people tell you, people, is more about what's going on with them than it ever has to do with you. It's what's been told to them. It's what they've been taught. It's what they believe. If someone believes, like this is so funny. Like my sister, I'll just say my sister. She said there's no money in music, and you know what's ironic? Because she was never supportive of my music. Well, she was, but she was like, "You're not going to make any money." Her son is a rock star. He's become very successful rock singer in a band and making money and touring, even in the event of a pandemic and everything. He's incredible. Worked very hard and many years for that. So isn't that funny? Those limitations. You know what I mean? I'm pretty sure she told him the same thing. But he was like, I want to do what I want to do, you know?
Right.
He didn't take that into his spirit. He didn't make the contract. Right. He didn't agree to that contract and that label and title of, you know, or whatever, that's not what you are, or there's no money in it, or whatever the reasoning is for saying it in the first place. But yeah.
That's a great story for sharing, especially being an artist of any kind or a creator period. You may not be an artist, but maybe you're doing coding on computers right now or something, you know what I mean? So what it is showcasing is that I think people feed pain and people feed joy, right? So sometimes you go through pain to in an attempt to feed your joy, because your joy, you know, is on the other side of the pain, just like the pain is the river you swam across earlier we were talking about. So however, those that feed pain, what they're doing is they're seeing all the fear, all the failure, and how they felt about when you say, hey, I'm starting this business or I'm doing this, and they're telling you you shouldn't do that. What they're actually trying to do is they're trying to protect you from the pain that maybe they experienced themselves when they failed at what they were doing. They didn't know how to accept failure.
Oh, that's nice.
Or the fear of the fear, which is the assumed pain, because they didn't even try. They got stopped because they were just thinking about the pain, and they never even tried. But then they're gonna tell you about what they imagine the pain's gonna be like, so that you don't get hurt. So that's what a lot of people do.
To add. Oh yeah, they mean well,
right?
But it is that limiting thing that you're told. But I like that that the intention is good, and I can see that with my sister. I know she wanted me to be successful and happy, so I like that you put that in there, because that's really lovely, and it's true. And it is true. And I think a lot of people mean well.
Yeah.
So they've learned these beliefs too, and they're working within constructs as well. So, but to get back to, Dyson and all Disney, and what do you think is the most common denominator in all of them? What's the connecting? Is there anything else there we've left out on what they have in common in terms of how they got where they got, how they navigated their lives? Is there anything else that comes to your mind?
So I think you hit a major milestone in this archaeological exploration here, because when you said curiosity, I really think that's what it is, because now when we combine curiosity
Yay, I love that.
with purpose, with possession, you create the infinity of outcomes, because you have the curiosity, and then what's going to be different among everybody is what you possess at that time that you have the curiosity. Some people possess a lot of money. Some people possess the knowledge and no money. Some people got friends. Some people don't know nobody. You know what I mean? So some people got this, they got that, whatever it is, right? So the possessions soup is all mixed up. The curiosity fuels a purpose to then fight through based on the possessions you have to start, which could even be your own thought process.
For sure.
Yeah.
Always your thought process, for sure. There's an element of your thought process.
You did it real big today, Trish. Curiosity.
I don't know if I did.
Yeah, curiosity. I gotta give it to you, man. You said it first. I just heard it. I heard it differently, but you said it.
Well, I heard somebody say that the other day, and I went, that's a gaslighting. Curiosity killed the cat. No, it didn't. There are a lot of people that do things because they're curious, and here we're talking about them.
But
they wanted to see what would happen if they the Wright brothers.
Mm-hmm.
They wanted to see if they can make an airplane, and they did it, and beyond, and they impacted the world. I mean, it really just impacted the world on so many levels. Yeah.
So check this out,
Big
right?
thing.
Check this out, because I know you like balance and duality. We got to say that what we can say, what would be a fair observation of curiosity killed a cat is that it's incomplete. Because it killed the cat, it absolutely does, because the curiosity kills the cat when the curiosity is pointing in the direction of why I shouldn't do this. Just like all the list of bad things that you didn't like about the car. If you stay on that side of the list, you're gonna hate your car. You're never gonna want to drive it anymore, right? Yeah. But also, curiosity allows the cat to live for finding, opportunities to make it thrive. So curiosity can kill, but it also can promote life.
Thank you for that. Thank you. That's really important, because we don't want to. No, we don't want to. Yeah, we don't want to, because that's true. And yes, it is an incomplete statement. It's kind of like the one we were talking about, the proof is in the pudding. No, the proof is in the eating of the pudding. There's a lot of clarifications that need to be made here on these slogans that are very misleading, and they're not accurate. They're confusing. They're misnomers, so thank you for that. I love that. That is so true. And it goes back to the duality, the pros and cons to everything
Yes.
in the universe across the board.
Yep.
And that's a whole other conversation.
So mark that on the calendar.
Mark that one on the calendar. Yeah, what I love so much about the work that we're doing together is we're really addressing all the forms of gaslighting and
By
how deep
default,
the
yeah.
rabbit hole goes, man. And it's deep.
Yeah.
Even every day I'm like, oh my gosh, there's another form of gaslighting and there's another form. It's just such a big, the way we've been operating in this society of, when there's not clarity, things can, the water is muddy, and it allows for confusion, and it allows for harm to be done to people and to ourselves, and us to do to ourselves as well. So I wanted to bring these people up because I mean David Bowie, I mean, he was a huge icon for me as a kid. I just thought he was so incredible, and how he went up against a lot of no-nos you weren't allowed to do when he came along, and the bravery of who he was.
Now, why when you say no-nos?
People, you know, the things that, you know, well, transgender for one, and just splitting that wide open was that's a big, and he's still affecting the world by who he was, not allowing people, you know, not listening to them, just going, I'm going to do what I'm going to do, all the time. And there's balance in that too. There's also the pros and cons in that too, balance to everything, but just, and that he just is a great role model of showing up for yourself.
It's like you said, even with those situations, we're talking about their possessions, and that's what made them unique, right? They're a combination of possessions along with the curiosity, right? At the moment. So that soup, that creates a soup. And then that soup feeds their, you know, their vibration and allows them to do things that nobody else will be able to do. But the thing is, there's something like that hidden in everybody. It's just that if we don't use our possessions, we'll never produce our true results, our true success. It'll always be some sort of distortion with someone else's vision of us.
When you say possessions, you mean like gifts, natural gifts,
included,
okay,
yeah.
interesting.
Our process is everything.
Yeah, because the gift that something came to me and then it just went by, but that's always happening. My mind is constantly going.
Like you're in California, so we had cars, and then someone came along and said, car, that's not good enough. I need my car to bounce. And, you know, and then the hydraulic culture was born. You know what I'm saying? So going beyond what is already there, having the possessions of saying, you know what, I think I can. It's a simple possession. I think I can. Yeah, we definitely got to do a whole coverage of that.
On possession, because it makes me think of what the monk says, you know, when he taught, what he says possessions are is your actions. Your actions are the only thing you possess. They're the very foundation for which you stand upon. What you do.
So what is the action? So how vast is the action? What's the infinity of action?
God, that's a big question. I don't know.
Is a thought of action?
Well, it's a cause and effect and a rippling effect. And here we are. I mean, look at the pandemic, what's going on. In one part of the world, there was a disease. Now it's everywhere. Yet we all act like we're separate, which negates the reality that we're interdependent. Right. And if this pandemic is not illustrating that truth, I don't know what else can, because we need to work together to help the planet as a whole. That's the truth.
Yeah.
How we get there, I think this is a start. What we're doing here, this work is getting in and having the real conversations.
You know what?
You're so amazing. Oh, ditto.
Look, what you just did is once we build a curiosity for ourselves within our, it's a whole tier structure to everything. First, we got to build the curiosity of ourselves, in ourselves. Then we can build our curiosity for ourselves, like in the external world, right? What we should be, because now we know ourselves and we satisfied our internal curiosity. Now we can see what we're supposed to do in the environment, right? And then once we get that thought process on hand, we can expand to now what's a curiosity for all of us together. And maybe that's what these people had in common. Another component that is, I think curiosity is the core, right? But another supporting, pole of the beach house, right, is they elevated themselves to think beyond themselves for others with their curiosity.
And to think big.
Right.
They didn't think little. Walt Disney didn't think little. He wanted to make this park for everyone. And
Right.
And in the movies, and he had a big ambitions, ambitions. But then there's also, like, in the smallest element, folks, I'm thinking about this is, if you've had hardship and you survived it and you got through it and you're a veteran, what else can you do? If you can do that and still be here today after everything you've been through, what else you got?
Yeah.
I ask you that question. Ask yourself, what else do I got? If I could survive all of that and I'm still here, that says a lot. That says, wow, you're capable. And what else are you capable of? What else? Not just surviving.
That's so in tune with your message all night. Because look, check it out. I'm gonna translate that into you gotta maintain the need or want the desire to find more. And what is that?
Okay to ask for more.
And what's that?
Sorry.
That's no, you're good. You're good. That was complimentary. That is going back to curiosity. You satisfy the curiosity and you have to say, what's the next curiosity? And go travel to that and experience that journey. And then once our curiosity is done, maybe that's when we're done. Maybe it's curiosity that's keeping us all alive, people. What do you think about that?
Oh my gosh. Well, that's big. I love that. It's true.
I've done it all. Okay, it's time to go. You know what I mean? Like, that's why we all leave at different times for different reasons, because it's based on when we feel like we've satisfied curiosity. There's nothing for us to stay here. All right, we might as well leave Disney and go back to the hotel, right? That's what people do, right? When they feel like they've seen it all. Now, the point you bring up is, even when you think you've seen it all, done it all, what can you find next? You've been on the ride before, but did you do it with holding just one hand on the handle? Did you scream? Did you close your eyes? What didn't you do the last time that you could add to make it a different experience, to make it that much better?
Years and years and years ago, I went through a really hard time and I was very suicidal, and a person gave me a book, and I don't even remember the book, but one thing the book said I do remember, and it hit me on this topic of curiosity. The book said, aren't you just a little bit curious as to what's on the other side of this? Because you don't know what that you're making up in your mind that it's going to be horrible, but you really don't know that.
Right.
Give that a chance.
Right.
That other thing that's also possible. The bad thing is, but so is the good thing. And that's where, when you think about curiosity and you have fear, focus on all the times it did work out, because that's also on the table too. So, but that, for some reason, that really impacted me, and that enabled me to get past that dark spot that I was in, was to keep going. And keep going, people, because you don't know. You got to be curious enough to find out.
It's like the moon, right? We know day and night. There's studies being done that's now showing that night is light too. It's just a different light. The sun actually warms and the moon actually cools. So in the sunlight, things warm up. and they've put things in the when in the moonlight, they've done experiments that show when things are placed in the moonlight, they actually cool down. So it's like the sun is pushing energy and the moon is
kind of
collecting it.
Yeah. And that balance. So, but
What I brought that up is to say, look at the diving into something that you thought we knew all about. It's day and night, but it's so much more to it than that.
Yeah. And just really just and stay open. I think this is really important as you're in your journey, to stay open, because you really truly don't know where you're going to strike oil. How many times have people said, oh, that could never happen? And it happens.
Right.
You can't do it that way. And people, you see in the Olympics, people break records all the time.
Mm-hmm.
And for years, you can't do it, you can't do it, you can't do it. And they do it.
Right. And look at look at football. You can have a running play to the second hole to the right, but that hole collapses. And then the running back gets hit, stumbles, stays on his feet, spins, goes all the way to the other side of the field, makes a juke move, gets popped, fumbles, right? The other offensive player picks up the ball and somehow runs it in for a touchdown. That was not the play. That's not the play that was called, but it resulted in a touchdown because of the journey.
Yeah.
Of that play.
And also true. And I that even the things that go wrong, there's a reason. You're supposed to learn something that so that you can have an even better outcome. You know, we have this whole screwed up idea about failure. We need a revamp on that word, failure and success. First of all, it's subjective. There is no bar what success is for one person. Some people are perfectly happy living in a grass hut and others want a mansion.
Right.
Or is one bad or better? Or
no,
who's to say? It's a personal taste thing.
Right. Like even if money wasn't a thing, like we talked about, some people will want the Ferrari, some people are going to still want to buy the Hyundai, you know, or the Toyota. I think you brought up a great point. Again, when we always the perfect day statements and the duality factors that you bring it up, we're really speaking the same thing, just in different languages. So what I want to showcase in that fumble example, in connection with how you brought that up with even the bad things, is we have to accept that maybe that wasn't bad. Our failures sometimes made to us be failures because we're still on the level of thinking about the self. That's not to say we haven't got past the level of thinking about the inside of self, right? But now we're looking at self in the world and the environment, and we're saying, oh, I failed in this. But in reality, that failure may have been you working and fighting, and the play was supposed to be to this right hole over here on the right, and you fighting, getting hit, spinning off of that, going all the way to the left, coming just to fumble the failure. But all that work puts you in position to fumble at the right moment where someone else could pick it up and now run it in for the touchdown. So when we start to think about ourselves as a collective, it definitely makes it easier to realize the failures are not failures for the collective. You know, when they want to develop a new technology, they don't just bring in 2 people. They give it to hundreds of people. They give it to the top people. They give it to the people at the very bottom because they want as many eyes working on the possibility as possible, because you never know who's going to discover the solution. And
then there's, if you didn't fail, you wouldn't appreciate the success. Exactly. You know, you think about people like, I don't know why, but Marie Antoinette comes to my mind, you know, let them eat cake. If you've never had adversity, you're not going to appreciate things as much. You're just going to take them for granted, and you're not going to have enough. You're not going to be able to appreciate them. And failures are very important for appreciation. Loss is very important for appreciation. We wouldn't appreciate things if we didn't lose things.
Right.
So it's a part of the whole. And you know, when you talk about the moon and the sun, you wouldn't appreciate the light if you didn't have the dark, and vice versa. You need both so that you need contrast so that you can understand what you have. So you
Yeah.
have a reference point to know what you have. If you let them eat cake and you're eating cake all the time, and that's just all you've ever known, I wouldn't want that life.
Mhm.
You know, there's a lot of power in adversity. There's a lot of power in working hard to get somewhere, because then you accomplish it and you have that sense of pride and feeling good about yourself that you didn't give up. How would you know that feeling if you didn't struggle?
Mhm.
So the struggle is as important as the accomplishment.
Yeah. Because
And I'm saying this to myself. Trust me, people.
oh, this
Yeah.
is therapy. I mean, I thank you all the time because
Ditto.
well, this is why. This is why this is great. It's great for us. It's great for people out there. It's great for everybody. So I like the the quote. I forgot again. It's one of those that I don't know the source off the top of my head, but it was something along the lines of, "I didn't fail 100 times. I found 100 ways it didn't work."
Edison. Thomas Edison said that.
There you go.
And Kentucky Fried Chicken, even though I don't like the fast food restaurant. So this is not a plug for Kentucky Fried Chicken, but who he was one of these people we're talking about. He was probably in his 50s.
Mhm.
And I think that he got 100 no's on a loan for his chicken recipe, maybe more, 1,000. It was a lot
Mhm.
until he finally got a yes, but he just didn't give up.
Right.
And it just keep going. Don't give anything. You just keep showing up for yourself. And eventually,
Yeah.
every time you do it, and I was talking with my best friend about this, every time you do it, you stack your odds.
Right.
Every time you get into action, you stack your odds that you'll make it happen. That's one of the biggest things in manifestations.
Yeah.
When you show up for yourself
Absolutely.
and you act on it with curiosity.
I agree because there's value added in even knowing that was a failure. Okay, that route is not the
Yes.
one that's going to work. So now I know at least not that. But and then even in that being the outcome, look at what you still discover in just trying.
Yeah, there's also things you learn on that end. Oh yeah,
Mhm.
many scientists will tell you they discovered things by accident.
Yeah.
In the middle of trying to figure one thing out, they found something else out. Oh wait, and it leads them on this whole other thing. So, that's the only difference. They're
That's
just
it.
curious. Hey, if I put this potion over here and I put this concoction over here, what's going to happen? That's what scientists do, alchemists. But we are all alchemists. That's really what's on the table. If we get our
Absolutely.
minds in the right place, how do we? Hey, if I do this, if I come over here, there's more than one way to get something done. So, but anyways, I would
So-
like to. We're going to be doing another. Oh wait, you go ahead. Go ahead. Sorry.
No. Oh, okay. Excuse me. I was just gonna say there's
No.
a chef
wanna
in
hear it.
everybody. Because when you were saying that,
A chef.
I was thinking about the
I
recipe,
like that.
right? So the question is, are you where it's easy for us to get complacent and just do the same recipe over and over, and whether that you want to call a certain task or your whole life in general.
I love
right?
that. It's a great metaphor.
Someone gave us the recipe, but what happens when you start doing it freestyle?
Yeah.
To taste
Excellent
and from memory.
metaphor. Oh, this is great.
There you go.
Oh, I love that. What if I add a little, nutmeg over here and
Yeah.
a little vanilla over here, and maybe I'll add some nuts, and that's the Food Channel makes a killing
Yeah.
on this idea,
And that's how you
and
wind
they're
up.
looking for new ways to do it all the time. Sorry, I'm sorry.
No,
Go
you're
ahead.
good. You're good. We're just both excited.
Yeah, I'm excited. I love that.
And I
That's
was
great.
well, when you were saying that, I saw the vision of that's how we get to having like fried watermelon now. Like,
Fried
grilled
watermelon.
grilled
Yeah.
watermelon and stuff. It's like
I love that. I love that. Oh my gosh, it's great. Anyways, I usually go an hour, but we went a little over just because this is so lovely. And
Mhm.
I want to plug your podcast. Ynet 7, everybody, check it out. It's wonderful, so informative on so many levels. And
Thank you.
you're going to be doing one, and I think you want me to join you, and we're going to talk about possession. I think that's what it was, right?
Yep.
That's the
Right over.
one. Oh, that's cool. I'm looking forward to it because I know I'm going to learn a lot. I've never thought about these things that way. So I'm very intrigued. I'm very curious.
See? And it took everything in the world for the curiosity to align. The actions that we look. So that's the infinity of the puzzle, people. So the life she had to live, Trish had to live, the life I live, it's the same dynamic differences and distance that is right now between you and your goal that's in here and your purpose that's in here. So even though 5 years ago, me and Trish didn't know each other existed. You see, that's how your goals is gonna the paths for purpose is gonna come into your life too. The same way your future best friend you may not even know today.
And
Trish,
on a
you're doing that
closing
amazing
note,
work.
I love this, the chef thing. That's wonderful. Channel the chef in you. What's going on in your life? What if you added something else? You know,
Yeah.
just out of curiosity, something you've always wondered about. Try it. You know, it's so important. It'll blow your mind. A lot of times you'll be like, I had no idea, and it will open up all these doors. And so, anyways, thank you, Pasha. I appreciate you so much. I truly do. I enjoy these podcasts so much, and I'm looking forward to as many as we feel like we want to do. I don't care. It's all good. As long as
Hey.
we're having the real conversations.
It's always a
You
perfect
know,
day.
it's always a perfect day. All right, everybody. On that note, have a blessed day and go with the flow. Be like water and be curious. Be your own chef.
Whip
See
it
what
up.
you can come up with. Do something different. Have a different outcome. All right, guys. Thank you so much. Until next time.
Enjoy.